Welcome to the BiGDUG podcast.
Thank you for
Thank
having
you
me.
so much for joining me, Liz. Again, I just like to introduce and say hi. Thank you for joining, everybody. Liz, it's over to you. I would love for you to explain who you are, what you do, and
Yeah, of
take us
course.
maybe from the beginning, actually. So, who you are, what you do, and then start from the beginning and talk about how you started your business would be amazing.
Brilliant. So I'm Liz. I am the owner of Osmology, which is a specialist scented candle online retailer. So we focus on getting all the best candles from across the world and bringing them together in one easy to shop space, which is easier said than done when you're selling scent online, but it's a challenge that I enjoy. But I actually started the business back in 2013 as a very, very different kind of project. I was actually making little elastic wallets um, just to try and find something to sell online, looking for ideas. And that was the idea that I kind of stumbled upon. That then led me to doing leatherworking and creating a whole business based around leather accessories, which then in turn led me to opening up a lifestyle store in Bristol. This is eventually where the candles started to come in because I was selling candles in the shop. The shop wasn't doing amazingly well, so I was looking at another pivot. Business is all about pivots. And the candles they were selling the best out of everything I had in the shop. And looking online, I could see that there wasn't any sort of specialist candle retailers where I could get all these cool brands that I was seeing on Instagram. So I decided to build a website, sort of test out that side of the business, and it took off. And 3 years later, Osmology is doing really well. And yeah, I'm now a candle aficionado. I've got candles
Wow.
everywhere.
Amazing. So it's obviously quite a journey and a road to get to kind of where you got to. And it's really
Definitely.
interesting that you kind of started in a very different space and how you kind of found candles was the thing.
I think that's the thing with business is you try one thing and it might not work, but it's about constantly sort of looking at your ideas and looking for new ideas until you sort of hit upon something which actually does start to take off. And it's being open to that process, not considering it a failure. It's, just sometimes you just need to move through these
That's so fascinating. And do you know what's
changes.
really interesting is that so many people talk about finding a niche,
Mm.
finding something which is, and there's so many people out there that try and artificially create a niche or look for one, whereas you obviously you found yours.
Yeah.
How important is that niche, do you think?
I think it's really important. I think you can sort of get very sucked into trying to do everything for everybody. And that's never the best way, especially when you start. You need to find a smaller little pocket of inspiration and those people, and then direct everything at those people. And then gradually you can build more people in and sort of get a bigger niche, as it were. But yeah, having that niche is really important. And I think my niche, when I first started Osmology, candles have been sold everywhere
Yeah.
by everybody for everybody all over the place. But because the shop that I started the business in was kind of directed at men, I was actually looking at a completely different market than candles had kind of been sold to before. So the guys were coming in and they were spending a huge amount more money than I could have even imagined on candles. And nobody was sort of created a business around them. And yeah, so
And were they buying them for themselves? Were they gifts? Like,
yeah, so mainly for themselves. So I think there's a lot of guys out there who are, into settled jobs, not necessarily living with partners, but wanted to have homes that were nice and inviting. And they were, spending candles just seemed to be an extension of their sort of, personal care routine. And in the evenings, it's a nice thing to have. And I hadn't even considered that before I had the shop. And I was
amazing.
just like, wow, okay, so this is a market which hasn't been tapped. So that was really my niche. And then that grew to encompass a lot more just cult brands and yeah, people looking for something a little bit different.
The modern day man, eh?
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. So how has lockdown been for you and the pandemic and how has it been for the business?
So I mean, at first it was totally worrying because you had no idea what was going to happen. But actually, for Osmology and for me personally, it's been incredibly beneficial. And I think there's a lot of people who swapped to online shopping,
Yeah.
and thankfully I was already set up for that. So it's just been a case of actually trying to keep up with everything more than
Okay.
anything. So yeah, we grew 6x this year, which has been amazing. But obviously, with the challenges of social distancing
Yeah.
and everything else, it was a case of I wanted to get staff in, but I
Of
couldn't
course. Of
because
course.
the warehouse prior had just been, just enough room for me to move about in there. And then
Wow.
to grow and to be able having all of these extra stock and boxes and packaging, it was all over the place. So yeah, especially this Christmas just gone, it was a case of me being locked in the warehouse on my own for 12 hours
Oh,
every
wow.
day, just because there was no way of having anyone else in there to help me.
That's
Um,
crazy, and
so yeah,
considering how much you've grown, and so am I right in saying and assuming that you don't drop ship all of the products you stock?
exactly. Everything's in-house. Yeah,
So for you, that is a lot of picking, packing, shipping,
exactly.
labels.
It is, and it's trying to find the systems um, to kind of minimize how much I'm doing myself. So building out the way that the labels are printed. Yeah, at the beginning of last year, everything was so much more manual, and over the course of this year, I've had to find ways of pressing one button on my phone and it does everything. And
Sure.
building out those systems, like, because I haven't had the staff to do that for me, which has been really interesting.
So this Christmas, was it just you in the warehouse, or did you have
Yes.
other people? So
No, it's literally just been me.
so
And it's
you were
still me at the
picking,
minute.
packing, and fulfilling everything, as well as trying to run the business, do all the social media, do all of the advertising, do
Mm,
all of the accounts. Like,
yeah.
wow.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I've got an accountant now who does, the main big accounts, but I'm still bookkeeping. And same with things like social media and photography. I've got some wonderful people outside the business who do that, but the day-to-day picking, packing,
Wow.
and website as well, everything I
Hats
do.
off to you. And I have to say to everybody listening, you have to go and check out Osmology's Instagram because it's beautiful.
Oh,
It
thank you. Well, that's all my
just,
photographer.
it is like, and it just sells the product so beautifully. Like it is what you would expect of a top brand. It's
Oh, thank
really,
you.
really well done. Really well done. Hats off to that because at the end of the day, it's because obviously your product, however visual it is, how do you smell? How do you sell scent?
Oh, it's so hard. It's so hard. And the more that I'm learning about scent and people's sense of smell, it seems to be actually getting harder. Everyone has such a different frame of reference when it comes to smells and scent,
Of course.
and how well they pick up certain notes. Some notes are just totally you can be totally blind to them, whereas for other people they're overpowering, and it's the
Mhm.
same candle, and that's fascinating. So I'm gradually building up a picture of if somebody likes this, then they might like that, but it's kind of hard to document that. So I'm learning all the time how to do that on the website.
Do you get a
But
lot of returns?
not a huge amount. I think online shopping, you always have quite a high returns rate anyway.
Mhm.
So I'm actually slightly shocked at how low the return rate has been for candles. I mean, I hope that it is because everybody's reading my um, descriptions and liking them
Sure.
and that. But
So to
yeah.
go back to basics slightly, because I don't know whether we've covered it, are you, to explain to everybody here, do you have your own range of candles or are you a marketplace for all of those cool brands?
I wish I had my own range of candles. I don't have the imagination to create the scents. So no, Osmology is kind of more of an old school retailer. I find the brands that I like of the people who are making amazing candles and bring them all together. So more of a marketplace.
Amazing. And it's such a clever idea really to bring
Thank
all of
you.
those cool brands into one place and to champion them and sell them and give people direction because lockdown for instance is awash with people making candles from home, obviously, and supplementing
Yeah.
their income. It's obviously, how have you found that, and how has that affected your business?
Actually, it's been really lovely because people have been sending little gifts, little pick-me-ups, and buying things for themselves. So that's been really nice. And in terms of the new brands coming onto the marketplace, I mean, I probably get 5 to 10 emails a day from someone who started a
Wow.
candle brand in lockdown, which is really encouraging. And I do have a sort of a fairly set email that I send back to them, but with all pointers on where they need to go next and what they need to do and what they need to test before they're not ready to come onto Osmology because they aren't set up in terms of the manufacturing side of
Hmm.
things.
So
But
what
it's
would it
nice
take
seeing
to
it.
get somebody onto Osmology then?
Oh, it's just all about having a bit of an original brand themselves. They need
Yeah.
to kind of stand out. They need to have good vessels. They need to be, they need to have shown that they've put the money in as well. So when people are first starting out, they quite often they start with one look, but it needs to sort of move on.
Doing it on their kitchen stove with this old saucepan.
Yeah, I mean, I've got no problem with that, but I think it just needs, you need to get it out to lots of people,
Sure.
lots of different noses.
Hmm.
People tend to ask their family and friends for feedback, and that's great, but they tend to be too nice. So
Of
you need to
course,
you
of
need to get
course.
out and you need to find out, who else, what people like, what people don't like, and you can only do that by asking strangers for
Of course,
feedback.
well, of course, it's like everyone can sing in front of their mum, you know?
Exactly, exactly. So yeah, my biggest advice, I mean, it's been harder this year, I think, because there hasn't been the markets
Hmm.
where people would usually go and do this testing. But yeah, I think these brands, there's going to be some really good ones coming out of it in, a
Oh, I bet
year,
there
2
is.
years time. So I'm keeping my eye on them.
But
Very
then you got to
interested.
think somebody like Joe Malone, she started from a kitchen table.
Exactly. Same with so one of my brands, I Live East, they were a kitchen table brand, and Hobo and Co. and
Hmm.
Boy Smells in the US. They started off in their basement about 4 years ago, and now they're literally an international huge brand. So it's very doable, and it's exciting to see. Yeah, I just want to give everybody the support that they need, and sometimes
Which is
that is
amazing.
you're not ready yet.
Of course, they've got to be ready to fulfill
Mhm.
the market need that you can give them, I guess.
Exactly.
So what's the future for you and Osmology?
Um, well, get through lockdown.
Of course.
Yeah, try and keep my head. Um, yeah, just get some staff in and start growing the business so that it's more of a household name. When you think candles, you go to Osmology. That's what I would like in the UK. Then out to Europe and worldwide would be great.
Of course, it's just, I guess, sorting those distribution networks
Exactly.
for the postage in the network. But that
Hmm.
is really exciting. So,
Thank you.
is there any advice that you would give to somebody starting, and it doesn't have to be a candle business, but somebody starting a little business in lockdown? Any advice that you would give on what and where you've seen success?
I think the best thing to do is just to get started and test and keep starting
Stop
basically.
putting it off.
Yeah, exactly. But even if something, if you have started a business and you're like, oh, I'm not sure if I should try that, try everything. That's the best way, because you will come across some dud ideas, but you'll come across something and go, oh, that was amazing, that worked, that really engaged me or engaged my audience and the customers.
Yeah.
And just to keep going.
And
Yeah.
that leads on to what I was going to ask about audience. So you can have the most beautiful shop or online shop in the world because of the dog behind me.
Yeah.
But how have you advertised and marketed Osmology? What's been your success strategy?
So it's been very organic, because I think when you start small, it can cost a lot actually to market a brand. So again, it was a case of testing what was working. But I mean, Google Ads is something that you just have to you have to do. I don't even know whether I can call it marketing. It's almost like a tax just to get to the top of people's sort of search engine results.
Of course it is, yeah.
But it brings in a third of my daily revenue. So it's, it's something you have to do if you want to reach those new customers. Social media, obviously you've got to be out there and on it. I'm not the best at it. It's not my favorite thing to do, so I tend to not do enough, but I'm currently looking for somebody to kind of take over that side of things and just bring it on the next level.
Yeah, sure.
And email marketing.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have an email list from day one, then you're really, really missing out on connecting with people further down the line and growing the business. And you put one email out and you should see money come back in that day.
Yeah, of course, because I guess it's repeat business and going back to those loyal customers. And
exactly, and you're building up what they know about you if you do it correctly. There's always improvements to be made, but those three.
And out of the social media channels, which one do you find is the one that people engage most on? Is it Instagram, Facebook?
Instagram is probably the biggest one, I think, just because it's visual and chatty, and I kind of, in terms of my customer base, Instagram is definitely that kind of millennial vibe, whereas I think Facebook is kind of maybe a little bit older. And Twitter isn't, where some people don't go there to shop and look at images.
They just go there to moan.
Exactly. So
it's a customer service tool.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's interesting. About most people say that about Twitter. It is, from a brand perspective, is a platform for CS. It's a customer service tool.
Yeah.
People moan or go on to ask about an order or
where's my delivery? And I do it myself. It's all right.
We all do it.
It's understandable. So yeah, you do got to keep make sure you're not missing anything on there. But yeah, I think every business has its own.
They do, absolutely. One funny thing about Twitter for me is I'm blue tick verified on Twitter. So if I ever moan on Twitter to a brand, they come back to me pretty sharpish, which is quite funny, really.
Yeah, definitely.
But
I wish I had that power.
Say power, it just means nothing really, but it's quite funny when you see it. But I think what you've done is amazing and fascinating, and how
thank you,
you've created a really cool place and vibe and marketplace to bring beautiful products together in such a very specific niche.
Thank you. I'm really excited to continue growing. I think this year has kind of proved the business is a real business rather than just an idea or a project. So, so many things start off quite small and it takes a while for them to really grow. So yeah, it's been a really exciting year actually, and I can't wait to sort of push ahead with all the ideas that I've got to take the business to the next level.
Amazing. And you know what, that's so pertinent to say, because so many people think starting a business is quick cash.
No.
And they can financial freedom, when actually it takes years to get to that tipping point.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And there's a lot of energy and hard work and
late nights
late nights
in a warehouse on your own at Christmas.
Exactly.
Amazing. I think we've pretty much covered so much, and it's so inspirational to see how you've gone from what you did and starting a business to going into such a niche and really building such a beautiful brand and an amazing place in such a short amount of time. Do you have any parting wisdom for anyone listening who wants to start their business?
Just get started.
Go.
The points of entry now are so low. You can build a quick website and it's all very easy to do. So yeah, just get going. Get that Instagram page up and start working. Yeah.
And that's the thing. It is so easy now, isn't it? There's places like Shopify that integrate with Facebook and Instagram shopping like within 5 minutes, and then you have an online shop.
Yeah. And you can test it, and also you're testing whether you're still interested in it, because I come up with ideas all the time, and so I'll buy myself a domain name and think, oh, I'll do that, and then it kind of fades a little bit. I'm like, oh, I'm not as interested, but that's a really good thing as well. Because if you're going to build a business, you need to actually get past that stage.
Of course you do, and have that burning passion for it.
Yeah, exactly.
And I've always found when I've spoken to people about their businesses, they always have this underlying reason why they do the thing they do, like gym
Mhm.
owners, they are fitness fanatics.
Yeah.
For you, what's that kind of tie to candles? Is there anyone? Do you have like a
I like candles. I'm a candle fan myself, but actually I think for me personally it's more about selling to customers, but to happy customers, and finding that connection. I really enjoy the joy that people get from buying things that they like, and
of
yeah,
course?
that's what I've always
And a
always
candle
preferred.
brings a lot of joy, it's something
Well,
that
exactly.
smell is such an emotive thing.
Exactly, and it as a gift or for a treat for yourself. When I've had actual physical stores, I've done pop-ups and things before, and had my shop before. Watching people go around and sniff all the candles, and then they find the one, and it's like it lights up their face, and they're like, "This is going to make my week. Every time that I need a boost, this is what I'll light." And I haven't come across any other product which is quite like that.
Sure, because
So
it's
yeah, I
smell, I
love that.
guess.
Yeah.
Smell has such an emotional
Yeah, and the stories people
connection.
tell you, because they suddenly hit upon a scent note and it just takes them somewhere. It's
It
fascinating.
is fascinating. I can it's like my mum always wears the same perfume. If I smell it
Mm.
on someone else, I smell my mum.
There you
It's
go.
crazy, isn't it? But it's
Yeah,
just
takes you back.
takes you back. Listen, thank you so much. It's
Thank
been
you
an
for
absolute
having me.
pleasure talking to you. Um, Guys, please go ahead and go over to Osmology, check out the amazing candles and the scents over on Liz's amazing website. And we will catch you again for the next BiGDUG podcast. Thanks for listening.